You crack out of your egg somewhere in the waters of the Pokemon world. And congratulations, you're a Dratini. You're small, your body is soft, and the river current immediately pulls you sideways before you even get a chance to move on your own. You coil your tail around a cluster of underwater roots to stop yourself from being dragged further downstream, then hold still while the water pushes past you. A few seconds pass and you let go, trying to swim forward, but your body keeps curling in on itself, so you spin more than you move. You need to get to the surface, so you push upward with short bursts until your head breaks through and you take in air. Then you go back down, trying again, and this time your body straightens out and you move the way you're supposed to. But something else is moving too. A long shadow passes above you, slow and wide, with its body cutting through the water without any effort at all. It's a Gyarados, and it's much bigger than anything you've seen so far, which is everything you've seen so far. It turns toward you, and you stop moving completely. It moves closer, with its mouth opening just slightly, and you have no way to fight something that size, so you pull yourself into a gap between two rocks at the riverbed and stay there with your body pressed flat. The Gyarados drifts past without stopping. You stay in the gap a little longer, then slide back out and move upstream along the riverbed, keeping close to the rocks. Then something hits the water above you. A red and white ball drops in from above, bouncing once before sinking slowly toward you. You twist away from it and push yourself into the reeds, and the ball drifts past and settles into the mud without closing around anything. You stay completely still in the reeds. You've been alive for less than a minute, and something has already tried to catch you. A few months have passed, and you're starting to figure out the river. You've learned that the current is strongest in the middle, so you stay close to the banks where the water moves slower, and the rocks give you places to stop. Your body has gotten longer, and your swimming has gotten cleaner, with your tail pushing you forward in long, steady waves instead of the spinning mess from when you first hatched. You've also figured out how to eat. Small Magikarp that wander too close to the rocks are easy enough to catch by coiling your body around them and squeezing. That's your wrap attack, and it works. Not every time, but enough. Then one morning, a larger Dratini comes into your section of the bank. It's bigger than you by a clear margin, with its body thicker and its movements more direct, and it goes straight for the cluster of rocks where you hunt. You coil up and hold your ground, with your body pulling into a tight S shape the way you do before you strike. But the other Dratini doesn't back down. It drives its head into your side, pushing you off the rocks and out into the open water, and the current catches you immediately and pulls you downstream before you can get back. You try to swim back up, but the other Dratini is already sitting in your spot, so you stop trying and let the current carry you further down instead. After a while, the river bends, and past the bend, you find a section that's deeper and wider, with a bed of large flat rocks along the bottom. Nothing is hunting here. You move along the bottom slowly, checking the gaps between the rocks, and you find Goldeen resting in the still water between them. That's your new feeding spot. It's better than the last one. But the deeper you go into this section of the river, the more you notice something large moving along the bottom that isn't you. Skip forward a bit, and you're several months older now, and the river has become yours in a way that actually means something. You've grown long enough that smaller Pokemon move out of your path without you having to do anything, and you've learned which gaps in the rocks belong to you and which ones aren't worth the fight. Then, one afternoon, a trainer appears on the bank above you, with a Poliwrath already in the water and moving toward you fast. You don't have anywhere to go, so you hold your position and fire a thunder wave, sending a pulse of electricity through the water that locks the Poliwrath's legs up and stops it mid-swim. The trainer throws a Pokeball, but you're already moving upstream with your body cutting through the water in long, fast waves, so it closes around nothing and sinks. That's the last you see of them. But the fight took more out of you than you expected, and by the time you settle back near your rocks, something else is already happening to your body. your skin starts pulling tight. Your whole body starts to stretch and lengthen, with new orbs pressing out through the scales along your neck. The change takes a few minutes, and then it's done. You're a Dragonair now. That's a big deal. But your new body doesn't move the same way yet. So when you try to swim your usual route along the bank, your tail overcorrects and you spin wide into open water. You need time to get used to this, so you stay still in the middle of the river trying to steady yourself. That's when another Dragonair comes around the bend with its body cutting a straight line directly towards you, with its orbs already lit up. This is its stretch of river, and you just swam straight into the middle of it. You're bigger than you were this morning, but this one has been a Dragonair a lot longer than you have. You're a year old now, and you have your own stretch of river. The standoff with the other Dragonair ended with you backing downstream, but you found a wider section of the river past the next bend where no other Dragonair had set up, so you claimed it. It took a few weeks to learn your new body properly, but now you move through the water the way you're supposed to, with your longer form letting you cover ground in far fewer strokes than before. Other Pokemon give you space without you having to do anything about it. A Lapras drifts through your stretch one afternoon, and you let it pass because you're big enough now that you don't need to challenge everything that comes through. Then, one afternoon, storm clouds build above the river, and the water starts to churn, with the current pulling harder than usual. You rise to the surface to get a better look, and that's when something new happens. Dragonair can influence the weather around them, and you've reached the point where that ability starts to work. You lift your head above the water, and the orbs along your neck light up, with a pulse running through them from your neck to your tail. The clouds above you start to pull apart and slow down, and after a few minutes, the water settles back to normal. That's the first time you've done that. It won't be the last. What happens next is the part that actually surprises you. A group of Magikarp that were hiding along the bank during the storm come back out and gather near the surface, close to where you're floating. They're not running. They're just there, staying near you. Dragonair are known to bring good conditions, so smaller Pokemon are drawn to them without even meaning to. For the first time in your life, something is choosing to be near you, but you can feel that the next change is coming, and it's going to be bigger than anything so far. 2 years in, and the second evolution hits you without much warning. You're resting near the surface of the river, with your body coiled loosely around a cluster of rocks, when your orbs start pulsing faster than they ever have before, with the light running up and down your neck in quick bursts. Then your whole body pulls tight, and the change starts. It's faster than the first time, but bigger. And when it's done, you have arms, and legs, and wings pressed flat against your back. You're a Dragonite now, and you are enormous. The first thing you need to do is get out of the river, because you barely fit in it anymore. So you push up to the bank and pull yourself onto dry land for the first time in your life. Standing takes a few tries. Your legs are thick, and your body is heavier than anything you've had to balance before. So you go down twice before you figure out how to keep yourself upright. Then, you look at your wings. You need to get airborne, because that's what Dragonite do. So you spread them wide and push down hard. You leave the ground for about 2 seconds before tipping sideways and crashing into the cliff face beside the river. That's your first flight attempt. You try again, then again. After a while, you get the timing right, with your wings pushing in longer strokes so your body levels out instead of tilting. And then, suddenly you're up, and staying up. You climb higher above the river, with your wings beating in a steady rhythm, and the ground gets smaller below you. You circle the area once, and find that you can cover in a single loop what used to take you half a day to swim. But the world from up here is a lot bigger than the river was, and there are things in it that don't care at all how large you've gotten. A few weeks into flying, you find the island. You spot it from high above the ocean while you're ranging further than usual, looking for somewhere to land that isn't a riverbank, and you drop down toward it with your wings pulling back to slow your approach. There are other Dragonite already here, 4 of them spread across the cliff tops and the flat ground near the water. You land at the edge of the group and stay still, with your wings folded tight against your back, and none of them move toward you or away. That's as close to a welcome as you're going to get. You spend the first few days working out the rules. The largest Dragonite on the island controls the best fishing spots along the western cliffs, so you stay on the eastern side where the fishing is decent enough and the space is yours. 2 of the others are about your size, so you keep your distance from them, and they keep theirs from you. After a while, it starts to work, and the island starts to feel like something worth staying on. Then, one afternoon, a trainer's boat passes near the island, and a Dragonite from the western cliffs drops down toward it. The trainer throws a Pokeball from the deck, and it closes around the Dragonite on the second try. The boat keeps moving. You watch the whole thing from the cliff top without moving. You understand what just happened, and you understand that the island is close enough to shore that it's going to happen again. So you move your resting spot further inland, away from the cliffs and the water's edge, because staying out of sight is the only thing that's kept you safe since the day you hatched. But the island isn't as hidden as it feels, and eventually, someone is going to find it who is better prepared than a trainer on a boat. Several years have passed, and the island belongs to you now. The large Dragonite that used to control the western cliffs is gone, and you moved into that spot gradually over a few months until the others stopped challenging it. You have a mate, and the 2 of you have settled into the best section of the island. Life on the island is about as good as it gets for a Dragonite. Then, a trainer lands on the island with a Tyranitar at his side, and the Tyranitar walks straight toward you with its arms out wide, trying to get you to back up toward the cliffs. That's the plan. You can see it clearly. So instead of backing up, you drop low and drive your full body into the Tyranitar's chest, pushing it sideways before it can get its footing. Then follow up with a hyper beam that sends it skidding back across the flat ground. The Tyranitar gets up and charges again, with its arms swinging hard, and you take the hit across the side before grabbing it and throwing it down toward the rocks below the cliff line. It pulls itself back up slowly, trying to get steady, but you're already on top of it with your full weight pushing it flat. It stops moving. That's the fight. You've beaten Pseudo-Legendaries before, but this one felt different, more even, more real. You stand up straight over the Tyranitar, and the trainer takes a step back. But then, the trainer reaches into his bag and pulls out a Master Ball, which is something else entirely. You've never seen one before, but the other Dragonite on the island start backing away from it, so you stay still and watch. The trainer walks past you. He walks right past you, with his eyes fixed on a Dragonite standing near the tree line behind you. A Dragonite with green-tinted scales that catch the light differently from every other one on the island. A shiny. That's what he came for. You won the fight, and it didn't matter at all. Many years have passed, and your body is starting to show it. Your flights are shorter now. You used to circle the whole island without coming down, but these days you land after 1 or 2 loops and stay on the ground for longer stretches before going back up. The other Dragonite on the island have started taking the better fishing spots along the western cliffs again, moving into them gradually the way you once did, and you let them, because pushing them back takes more than it used to. Then, one afternoon, a storm rolls in off the ocean, bigger than the ones you used to pull apart without much effort. You rise up above the island and try to calm it the way you always have, with your orbs lighting up and a pulse running down your body. But the storm keeps building, with the waves below growing and crashing harder against the base of the cliffs. You push the pulse again, with your whole body straining to hold the pattern, but your orbs flicker and the pulse cuts out before it finishes. You've never had that happen before. The wind drives you sideways, with your wings struggling to hold your angle, so you drop lower, trying to get out of the worst of it. A wave comes up over the cliff edge and hits you across the side, knocking your feet out from under you and sending you down the rocks toward the water. You grab at the cliff face, trying to stop yourself, but your claws scrape across the surface without catching, so you go into the ocean. You try to get back up. You get your head above the surface once, with your wings pushing hard against the water, but the next wave rolls you under, and the current pulls you away from the rocks and out toward open ocean. There's another dragonite on the cliff above, watching. It doesn't come down. And that's it. That's how it ends for you. Not in a battle, not against something legendary. Just a storm, a wet cliff, and a body that finally ran out of time. You were one of the strongest things in the sky, but there was always something just a little out of reach, and in the end, even the weather didn't think you were worth the fight.